The bridge that vanished. There used to be a bridge here. At least, that's what the photos say. Thousands of them. Sunset shots framed perfectly between steel cables, couples leaning against waist-high railings, runners pausing mid-stride, the river glittering beneath their feet. Drone footage capturing a long silver arc stretching confidently from one side of the valley to the other. The name appeared everywhere. Riverspan Crossing. It had 5-star reviews. Travel blogs called it the hidden architectural gem of the decade. Local influencers filmed slow-motion walks across it while wind tugged at their jackets. There were proposals, anniversary posts, engagement shoots. Someone even live-streamed a midnight festival from the center of the bridge, lanterns glowing against the dark water below. And then it was gone. Not closed, not destroyed, not under renovation, just gone. If you search for it now, nothing official appears. No transportation record, no municipal archive, no construction permits, no demolition order. The name doesn't auto-complete. The tag location redirects to blank space. The reviews still exist, but they float disconnected, stripped of their anchor point, like memories without a body. Satellite maps show only a river, calm, continuous, unbroken. But the older captures, if you dig far enough, tell a different story. There it is, clear as daylight, a bridge spanning the water, cars mid-crossing, shadows cast at the correct angle for late afternoon. Then in the next updated layer, nothing. No debris, no collapse scar, no interruption in the shoreline, as if someone selected it carefully and pressed delete. Here's the part that makes it worse. The photos weren't altered. Metadata confirms dates, device models, GPS coordinates. Weather conditions match archive forecasts from those days. The reflections in the water align with the sun's historical position. Structural engineers online have analyzed the images frame by frame. Everything about the bridge is real, except the bridge. One archived event listing still lingers in a forgotten corner of the internet. Annual Light Walk, Riverspan Crossing. Attendance, 1,842. Status successfully concluded. No incidents reported. No comments about closure. No follow-up announcements. No explanation. And if you scroll long enough through old social media threads, you'll notice something subtle. People stop mentioning it. Not gradually, not like interest fading, abruptly. One day it's a trending destination, the next, silence. As if everyone collectively decided not to remember. But memory doesn't disappear that cleanly. Somewhere in thousands of phones and cloud backups, the bridge still stands. People are still smiling on it, still leaning against railings that no longer cast shadows on any river. And if you take the coordinates embedded in one of those photos, if you copy them carefully, digit by digit, your map application will do something strange. It will calculate a route. It will estimate your arrival time, and it will guide you to a place that does not exist. Digital evidence. I didn't go looking for the bridge. It found me. It started as a recommendation buried between cooking videos and travel reels, places you didn't know existed. The thumbnail showed a suspension bridge glowing gold in the late afternoon sun. The river beneath it was wide and glassy, reflecting the cables like perfectly drawn lines on a blueprint. The caption read, "Riverspan Crossing, Hidden Architectural Wonder." I remember pausing the video, not because it looked impossible, but because it looked familiar. I had never been there. I had never even heard of it. Yet something about it felt archived in my memory. I saved the location. Not intentionally, just the automatic tap we all do when we see something worth visiting someday. The name was clean, professional. The reviews were glowing, over 2,000 ratings, 4.9 stars. Best sunset view in the region. Worth the drive, feels like walking above time. That last one stuck with me. Walking above time. Weeks later, I decided to search for it again. Nothing. No official page. No tourism listing. No transportation department reference. Just fragments. User-uploaded photos disconnected from a source. Travel blogs with broken header images. A cached preview that wouldn't fully load. The name, Riverspan Crossing, no longer auto-filled in search bars. I thought maybe it had closed. Bridges close, they get condemned, they get replaced. But closures leave trails. News articles, public safety notices, construction updates. There were none. So I did what anyone would do when something feels slightly off. I started digging. The first thing I checked was image metadata. The photos weren't generic stock images. They were taken on real phones, different models, different years, different lighting conditions. The EXIF data showed consistent GPS coordinates across hundreds of uploads, latitude and longitude, identical to 6 decimal places. I copied the coordinates into a mapping application. The screen zoomed in. River, trees, open land, no bridge. I toggled to satellite view, still nothing. Then I switched to historical imagery. 3 years ago, there it was, a bridge spanning the water, steel cables, concrete pylons, symmetrical design. 2 years ago, still there. 1 year ago, the water uninterrupted, no demolition debris, no construction scars, no sign that anything had ever anchored into that riverbed. Just smooth terrain, as if it had always been empty. I zoomed further out. Nearby roads existed. Access paths were visible, but they ended at nothing, like veins cut cleanly from a body. That's when I noticed something stranger. The reviews were still online, but they had no parent listing. Clicking the location tag led to a blank page. The map thumbnail that should display beside the reviews showed a gray grid instead of a landscape. Yet the comments continued to update as recently as 8 months ago. 8 months. Someone had written, "Can't believe more people don't know about this place." Another, "Terrifying but beautiful." Another, "Wouldn't cross it again at night." At night. That implied lighting, infrastructure, maintenance. I searched municipal construction records. Nothing under the bridge's name. Nothing under alternative names. No budget allocation. No contractor registry. I even searched archived web pages using older snapshots of the internet. One tourism site listed it briefly under regional highlights. The entry was short, Riverspan Crossing, completed 2012, length 412 meters, purpose pedestrian and light vehicle transit, status open. The page timestamp was dated 4 years ago. The same page now returns an error. No redirect, no explanation, just gone. Then I found something that made my stomach tighten, a live stream recording, or what remained of it. A placeholder thumbnail titled Annual Light Walk, Riverspan Crossing, Full Event. Duration listed 2 hours, 13 minutes. Views 18,402. But when I clicked it, playback unavailable. The comments below were still visible. 3614 gave me chills. That moment when the lights dimmed. Did anyone else hear that sound near the center? Near the center. There shouldn't be a center. There shouldn't be anything. I tried downloading a lower resolution cached version using an archive tool. The file size registered, the download bar filled, but when opened, black screen. No audio, no corruption message, just absence, digital absence. That's when I stopped thinking in terms of closure or demolition, because demolition leaves evidence, even erasure leaves residue. But this felt curated, as if every official record had been carefully removed while personal memories were left intact, like someone wanted the bridge to survive only in human recollection. I returned to the image metadata. Every photo pointed to the same coordinates, so I copied them again, carefully, digit by digit. I pasted them into a GPS navigation app instead of a standard map. This time, something different happened. The route calculated immediately. No error. Estimated arrival time, 47 minutes. The path traced perfectly along existing highways, then onto a smaller road I recognized. It behaved as if the destination were completely valid. The small preview icon at the endpoint displayed a bridge symbol. Clear. Undeniable. According to the navigation system, the bridge still existed. According to every official map layer, it did not. I zoomed into the endpoint preview. For half a second, before the interface refreshed, I saw something, a thin gray arc crossing blue water. Then it flickered, replaced by blank terrain. The app didn't crash. It didn't warn me. It simply recalculated and displayed. Destination available. Available. Not found. Not verified. Available. That word felt wrong, like it wasn't describing a place, but an access point. I checked the coordinates one last time. They hadn't changed. The numbers matched every photo ever uploaded from the bridge. Thousands of people had stood at that exact location. They had leaned on railings, taken selfies, watched sunsets, and somehow every digital trace that should confirm its existence had been partially removed. Just enough to create doubt, but not enough to erase belief. The bridge lived in fragments, in pixels, in timestamps, in archived comments. It was real enough to have history, but absent enough to feel impossible. And that was the moment I understood something unsettling. If the digital record was fractured, if official documentation had vanished, if satellite imagery had quietly updated, then there was only one remaining form of verification left: physical presence. If I went there, if I stood at those coordinates, I would either find proof that the internet was wrong or proof that something had been deliberately removed. And if the GPS still believed in the bridge, maybe it wasn't gone at all. Maybe it was simply unavailable. No history, no trace. The moment I realized the bridge might not just be missing, but erased, I stopped searching like a tourist. I started searching like someone looking for a body. If a structure that size had existed, it would have left weight behind. Financial weight, bureaucratic weight. Paper trails don't vanish easily, not entirely. So I began where all large projects begin: money. Infrastructure budgets are public record. Annual expenditures are itemized down to street resurfacing and drainage repairs. A 412-meter suspension bridge would require planning approvals, environmental assessments, contractors, materials, safety inspections. I combed through 5 years of municipal budgets. Nothing labeled Riverspan Crossing. Nothing under alternate project names. Nothing matching its dimensions. So I broadened the search. Regional transportation departments, federal infrastructure grants, private-public partnership registries. Still nothing. No funding allocation large enough to support a bridge over that river in the past 15 years. But bridges don't appear from nowhere, so I looked backward instead of forward. Older satellite captures confirmed its presence 3 years ago. It was visible, fully formed, casting measurable shadows consistent with its height. That meant it had to have existed long before that image was taken, which meant there should be planning documentation even further back. I searched Archive Council meeting minutes, keyword searches for span, crossing, pedestrian bridge, river development. No references, no debates, no public objections. That was the first true impossibility. Large construction projects spark controversy, noise complaints, environmental concerns, traffic disruption. Silence is unnatural. I then turned to structural engineering databases. Some firms proudly document their portfolio work. Bridges especially, engineers showcase them like signatures. I found nothing matching its design. No firm claiming authorship, no awards, no press releases. It was as if the bridge had no creator, which meant one of two things: either it never existed, or everyone responsible for it no longer acknowledged it. I contacted a civil engineer I know casually through online forums. I sent him 3 photos without context. His reply came 20 minutes later. Open quote, "That's a real structure. Steel cable tension looks correct. Low distribution seems plausible. Not CGI. Why?" Close quote. I asked if he recognized the design. He didn't. But he confirmed something important. The erosion patterns on the riverbank in that second photo, that takes years. Years. Not weeks. Not months. If the bridge had once stood there, it had stood long enough to reshape the environment around it. And yet the current satellite image showed undisturbed shoreline. No residual foundation scars. No altered water flow patterns. Nothing. I began comparing image layers frame by frame. 3 years ago, bridge present. 2 years ago, bridge present. 18 months ago, present. 1 year ago, gone. The transition wasn't gradual. There was no construction phase of removal. It simply ceased to appear in updated captures. I tried accessing archived satellite data directly from third-party mapping services. In one dataset, something strange happened. When I adjusted the date slider to a specific week 11 months ago, the bridge flickered in and out depending on zoom level. At 100 meters altitude, visible. At 80 meters, gone. At 60 meters, visible again for half a second. Like the map itself couldn't decide which version of reality to render. I screen recorded it. When I replayed the footage later, the flicker was gone. The bridge stayed absent the entire time. No glitch, no anomaly, just water. I checked local news archives. If a bridge had been demolished, especially quietly, it would still require road closures, police presence, traffic rerouting. I searched by date ranges corresponding to when it disappeared from satellite view. Nothing. No mention of roadwork in that area. No detours logged. No public advisory. Even more unsettling, the nearby roads that once connected to the bridge still existed in older map captures. Now they curved away before reaching the river, as if they had always terminated earlier. The cartography had been rewritten, not updated, rewritten. I decided to look beyond official channels, local forums, community boards, neighborhood discussion groups. I searched posts going back 5 years. I found dozens of references to sunset walks on the bridge, complaints about wind strength, photos of cyclists crossing during early morning fog. Then abruptly, no one mentioned it again. There was no final goodbye post, no sad to see it go, no outrage. The references stopped mid-conversation. One thread discussing the best time to photograph the bridge ended with a comment, "See you there tomorrow." There was no reply. I messaged the original poster. No response. I checked their profile. Inactive for 11 months. Not deleted, just silent. I messaged 3 more users who had posted detailed photos. 2 accounts no longer existed. One replied, open quote, "What bridge?" close quote. I sent them a screenshot of their own uploaded image. The typing indicator appeared, then disappeared. No further response. That was the moment doubt crept in. Not about the bridge, about memory. I opened one of the highest resolution images and studied it closely. The structure cast correct shadows. Reflections aligned with wind patterns. A flock of birds was frozen mid-flight near the cables. Everything consistent, except something subtle. The far shoreline in the image didn't perfectly match current terrain. In the photo, a small cluster of trees leaned slightly east. In the present satellite image, those same trees stood upright and farther apart. Environmental changes can happen, but tree growth patterns don't reverse direction. I overlaid the image onto the current satellite map. The alignment was off by several meters. Not enough to dismiss, but enough to suggest displacement, as if the land itself had shifted. I checked geological activity reports. No earthquakes recorded in that region during the relevant time frame. No floods severe enough to restructure terrain. Nothing. Then I noticed something even stranger. When I zoomed out far enough on certain mapping platforms, the coordinates where the bridge should be began to lose resolution faster than surrounding areas, like compression artifacts clustering unnaturally. Everywhere else, sharpened gradually. That section blurred prematurely, as if the system were avoiding detail. I exported raw coordinate data from 3 separate map providers. 2 showed identical river geometry. The third showed a slight curvature difference exactly where the bridge once anchored. When I tried to share a screenshot of that anomaly with a friend, the image failed to upload twice. Network error. On the 3rd attempt, the image went through, but the curvature difference was no longer visible. The map appeared normal. I checked my original file. It had changed. No editing timestamp, no modification history, just corrected. By then, this was no longer an investigation into missing infrastructure. It was an investigation into absence, not destruction. Absence, because destruction leaves evidence. Erasure leaves gaps. This left continuity, a smooth narrative where the bridge had never been necessary. No fiscal impact, no engineering credit, no demolition record, no trace. And yet, thousands of people had stood on it. Thousands had photographed it. Thousands had left digital fingerprints tied to a precise set of coordinates that modern maps now insisted contained only water. I zoomed in on the exact latitude and longitude one final time. The blue dot hovered calmly over the river. If I trusted official records, nothing had ever existed there. If I trusted human memory, a 412-meter bridge had once carried footsteps across that span. Only one of those could be correct. And the more I searched, the more it felt like the records weren't incomplete. They were clean, too clean, as if someone hadn't just removed the bridge. They had removed the history of its removal. No history, no trace, just a river pretending it had always been empty. Entering the unknown. There's a point in every investigation where research stops being useful, where screenshots and archived pages and metadata comparisons begin to loop back on themselves, where the screen stops offering answers and starts reflecting your own face in the dark. I reached that point at 2:17 a.m., 3 monitors open, 12 tabs frozen mid-load, the river staring back at me in satellite view, flat and indifferent. If the bridge had ever existed, the internet was no longer willing to admit it, which left one option: verification, physical, undeniable, non-digital verification. I copied the coordinates again, latitude, longitude, 6 decimal places, the numbers that appeared in over 1,000 separate photo files. I opened a standard map application first, pasted the coordinates. It zoomed to the river. No bridge. I switched to satellite. Still water. Then I opened a dedicated GPS navigation app, the kind designed for turn-by-turn driving rather than general browsing. I pasted the same coordinates. The interface paused for half a second. Then, calculating route, no error, no invalid destination, no warning about water or unreachable terrain. The blue line appeared smoothly, tracing highways I recognized. It exited onto a smaller road, then onto a narrower one that curved toward the riverbank. Estimated arrival time, 47 minutes. The destination icon displayed a small gray bridge symbol. Clear, unambiguous. I zoomed in. The preview window showed a faint arc crossing blue. Then it refreshed, and the arc disappeared. The route remained active. I closed the app, reopened it, pasted the coordinates again. Same result. Valid route. Bridge icon. No structure visible on the main map. It was as if the navigation system and the mapping system were operating on slightly different versions of reality. I leaned back in my chair and tried to think rationally. Maybe the bridge had been recently demolished and the navigation database hadn't updated yet. Maybe I had stumbled into some bureaucratic lag between systems. Maybe this was nothing more than poorly synchronized software. But that explanation collapsed under one detail. Satellite imagery had already removed the bridge, which meant updates were happening, just selectively. I checked offline map downloads. I downloaded the region's map data to my device, disconnected from Wi-Fi, switched to airplane mode, opened the GPS app again. The route still calculated. The bridge icon still appeared, offline, no live data connection, which meant the bridge's existence was embedded somewhere locally, stored in the application's internal dataset. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. There's something unsettling about seeing directions to a place you're increasingly convinced shouldn't exist. It felt less like navigation and more like an invitation. I checked the time again, 2:31 a.m. Most people would wait until morning, but part of me understood something important. If I waited, I might talk myself out of it. Doubt grows in daylight. I grabbed my keys, camera battery full, spare battery charged, tripod in the trunk. I wasn't sure whether I expected to document proof of existence or proof of absence. The drive began normally. City lights, late-night traffic signals cycling through empty intersections, familiar streets. The GPS voice sounded calm. In 600 meters, turn right. Its tone was neutral, unaware of the weight attached to its instructions. As I merged onto the highway, I glanced at the small map preview. The destination still displayed as a bridge symbol. No flicker, no glitch. The estimated arrival time ticked downward steadily. 44 minutes. 41, 42. The further I drove, the quieter the roads became. Streetlights thinned out. Commercial buildings gave way to stretches of trees and open land. The navigation instructed me to exit onto a secondary road I rarely used. I hesitated, then followed it. The asphalt narrowed slightly. No signage indicating any nearby attraction. No tourist markers. No brown signs with white lettering pointing toward a scenic crossing. Just road. At one point, the GPS recalculated briefly. The screen dimmed. The blue line vanished for a second, then reappeared, identical. In 3 kilometers, continue straight. Continue straight toward what? I adjusted the radio. Static. Not unusual this far from the city, but the static seemed to fluctuate rhythmically, almost like interference rather than weak signal. I turned it off. Silence felt safer. The trees grew denser. My headlights carved narrow tunnels through darkness. I checked the map zoom level. According to the GPS, I was approaching the bridge entrance. The small preview still showed the arc crossing water, but the larger map layer beneath it showed only road ending near the riverbank. 2 overlapping realities, both coexisting on the same screen. Arrival time, 9 minutes. I felt a subtle shift in my chest. Not fear exactly, anticipation, because one of 2 outcomes was waiting at the end of this drive. Either I would arrive and find nothing, confirming the internet's erasure, or I would find something that official records refused to acknowledge. Both options were disturbing, but only one would change everything. In 800 meters, continue straight. The road surface changed slightly, rougher, less maintained. I scanned for warning signs. No barricades, no road closed notice. No reflective markers indicating an upcoming structure. Arrival time, 3 minutes. The GPS zoomed automatically. The bridge icon expanded slightly as if preparing to guide me across it. My headlights reached the end of the tree line. The road straightened, and ahead, I saw only darkness. No illuminated cables, no reflective guardrails, no architectural silhouette cutting across the sky, just open space. In 300 meters, you will arrive at your destination. My pulse quickened. The river should have been visible by now. Instead, the land dipped slightly downward into shadow. I slowed the car. The final instruction came calmly. You have arrived at your destination. The map showed my blue dot centered perfectly on a bridge, a solid gray span stretching from one bank to the other. Traffic indicators displayed small moving icons crossing it in real time. But outside the windshield, there was nothing. No structure, no sound of vehicles, no vibration in the air, just the faint outline of water reflecting starlight. I stopped the car, turned off the engine. Silence expanded outward. The GPS screen remained lit. My blue dot hovered in the center of a bridge that did not exist. For a moment, I considered turning around, leaving, accepting that this was a software anomaly and nothing more. But then I remembered the metadata, the erosion patterns, the archived live stream comments, the people who had stood here, thousands of them. They hadn't imagined it. They had walked across something, which meant if the bridge was gone, it hadn't simply been demolished, it had been removed from consensus. I opened the car door. Cold air rushed in, the smell of river water. I stepped out, phone in hand, watching the GPS display. According to the screen, I was standing on steel and concrete. According to my senses, I was standing on gravel at the river's edge. This was the threshold, not just between land and water, but between documented reality and observed reality, between mapped certainty and physical absence. I took one step forward. The blue dot moved slightly deeper into the bridge's span. There was no change in the world around me, just the quiet river. But somewhere, within the device in my hand, the system still believed. And for the first time since this began, I understood something unsettling. The bridge might not be gone. It might simply be accessible under the right conditions, and I had just entered them. The road changes. The moment I stepped back into the car, something had shifted. Not outside, inside. The kind of shift that doesn't announce itself loudly, but settles into your spine and stays there. The GPS still displayed the bridge beneath my blue dot, a perfect gray arc over water that through the windshield clearly held nothing. No cables, no towers, no steel, just river. I should have turned around, documented the absence, uploaded the footage, ended it there. But the route line on the screen hadn't disappeared. It had extended. Beyond the bridge, continuing straight across the span, curving gently into the tree line on the opposite bank, there was a second road mapped on the other side, a road that did not exist in front of me. Estimated travel time, 6 minutes. No new input, no recalculation, just a continuation. My hands rested on the steering wheel longer than they needed to. Then, against every rational instinct, I shifted the car into drive and eased forward. The tires rolled over gravel, toward the river, toward open air. 5 meters, 10. The headlights should have caught the river's edge. Instead, they caught something else, a faint reflective shimmer at ground level, like light bouncing off metal. My stomach tightened. I inched forward. The sensation under the tires changed, from loose gravel to something solid, smooth, level. There was no visible structure beneath me, but the vibration pattern through the steering column shifted distinctly. Not riverbank terrain, not dirt, something engineered. I stopped breathing for a second. The GPS voice spoke calmly. Continue straight. The headlights stretched forward into darkness, and then, for just a fraction of a second, I saw it. A vertical line where there should be none. A thin shadow cutting upward into the night, gone before my brain fully registered it. I told myself it was imagination, expectation shaping perception. I rolled forward another meter. The car didn't dip, didn't sink, didn't lurch into water. The river's reflection was no longer directly in front of me. Instead, darkness expanded downward on both sides. My headlights illuminated faint mist rising below. Below, not ahead, below. I glanced at the side mirror. For half a heartbeat, I saw a railing, silver, parallel to the car. Then it flickered and vanished, replaced by empty night. My pulse spiked. The GPS screen zoomed automatically as if detecting I had entered a structured path. Lane lines appeared faintly on the display. 2 lanes, one in each direction. No oncoming traffic shown, just me, crossing. I lowered the window slightly. The sound changed. Wind, not open field wind. Not riverbank breeze, higher, narrower. The kind of airflow shaped by vertical supports. I could feel it pressing against the car in subtle pulses. I forced myself not to look down. Instead, I focused on the far end of the headlight's reach. Every few seconds, faint geometric shapes shimmered at the edge of visibility. Cable lines, support beams, but only when I wasn't staring directly at them. Peripheral vision caught what direct observation erased. The road behind me no longer looked like gravel in the rearview mirror. It looked elevated, the darkness beneath it deeper than before. I checked the map. My blue dot sat precisely at the midpoint of the bridge, halfway across. The estimated remaining time ticked down, 3 minutes. My hands were slick against the steering wheel. There should have been fear, panic. Instead, there was something stranger, recognition, as if the road was allowing itself to be perceived gradually, not fully, not all at once, just enough to sustain forward motion. The GPS voice glitched slightly. Continue straight, a crackle beneath the syllables. I tightened my grip. The radio, though turned off, emitted a faint hum, low frequency, almost below hearing, the kind of sound you feel in your jaw more than your ears. Halfway across, something changed again. The road texture under the tires became unmistakable. Concrete seams, expansion joints, a subtle rhythmic thump at even intervals. This was no illusion. The vehicle was responding to structural patterns. But when I glanced out the window, there was still no visible bridge, only darkness and the suggestion of form. Then headlights appeared ahead. My breath caught. A pair of distant white lights, approaching from the opposite direction. According to the GPS display, another vehicle icon moved toward me in the opposing lane. I slowed instinctively. The lights grew brighter, closer, but I could not see the body of the vehicle. Only headlights suspended in black. 10 meters away, the lights flickered and passed through me. Not physically, but visually. They crossed my field of view without casting reflection on the hood of my car. No engine sound, no displacement of air, just light, moving along an invisible path. Gone behind me. I checked the rearview mirror. Nothing. The GPS icon for the opposing vehicle continued across the span and vanished off the map on the other side. My heart pounded now. Not from fear, from realization. The bridge was not appearing because I was there. It was appearing because I was following the route. The path determined perception. I tested it. I turned the wheel slightly to the left, just enough to drift from the center of the mapped lane. The GPS emitted a warning tone. Recenter vehicle. The moment my tires deviated, the smooth surface beneath me dissolved. The vibration pattern shifted violently toward uneven terrain. A split second of instability. Then I corrected the wheel. Back into the invisible lane. Stability returned instantly. Concrete seams beneath the tires again. The road only existed within alignment, only where the map said it should. I swallowed hard. The far bank began to take shape ahead, trees silhouetted faintly. The bridge icon on the Jeep narrowed toward its endpoint. Estimated arrival, 1 minute. But the trees ahead didn't match the earlier satellite image. They seemed denser, closer. The landscape slightly different, as if I wasn't approaching the same riverbank I had seen from the starting side. The hum in the air deepened, a vibration through the chassis. Then, without warning, the headlights illuminated steel cables fully, clear, solid, stretching upward into darkness. For 3 full seconds, the bridge existed in total clarity. Towers, crossbeams, suspension lines vanishing into night. I gasped, then blinked, and it was gone again. But the car was still moving, still supported, still crossing. I checked the time. 12 minutes had passed since I began driving forward. The GPS still insisted it had been 6. Time distortion or perception lag? The endpoint icon flashed gently. Destination ahead. The road beneath the tires began to slope downward, a descent off the span. The vibration pattern changed back toward gravel. I slowed carefully. The headlights struck solid ground ahead. Trees, real ones, thick and close. I rolled forward cautiously. The car's suspension dipped slightly. Back on Earth. I stopped. Turned off the engine. Silence again. I looked back through the windshield. Behind me, no bridge, no elevated roadway, just darkness and the faint glimmer of river reflecting distant starlight. I checked the GPS. My blue dot sat on the far side of the bridge, the route complete. The road that should not exist now extended behind me, a perfect digital crossing from one bank to the other. But physically, there was no visible structure connecting the two sides. Yet I had crossed something, felt it, driven over it, aligned with it. The road had changed, not gradually, not structurally, but conditionally. It existed only within the logic of the route, only when followed precisely. And as I stepped out of the car onto unfamiliar soil, one realization settled with absolute clarity. The bridge was not missing, it was selective, and I had just been allowed across. The empty river. The engine ticked softly as it cooled. That small metallic clicking felt louder than it should have in the stillness. No wind, no distant traffic, no hum of infrastructure, just the faint scent of wet earth and river water hanging in the air. I stepped out slowly. The ground beneath my shoes was solid soil mixed with gravel, undeniably real. I turned around immediately. There was no bridge, no cables cutting into the sky, no silhouette stretching across the dark, no towers rising behind me, only the river, wide, flat, silent. Moonlight skimmed across its surface in thin silver streaks. It flowed undisturbed as if nothing had ever crossed it. No shadow split its width, no reflection suggested structure. And yet, my phone screen still showed a completed route, a perfect gray span connecting both banks. My blue location dot rested on the far side of that span. I zoomed in. Lane markings were visible on the map overlay. A thin double line down the center. Guardrail edges faintly indicated. According to the GPS, I had just crossed a 412-meter bridge. According to my eyes, the river had never been interrupted. I turned the flashlight on, swept it toward where the bridge should meet the ground behind me. Nothing but air and darkness. No anchoring bolts. No concrete footing. No structural residue. Just a gentle slope down toward water. I walked forward cautiously. Gravel shifted under my steps. The beam of light trembled slightly with my hand. I reached the river's edge. The water was closer than it should have been if I had truly exited a long elevated structure. There was no extended landing area, no access road curving up from a bridge ramp, just earth ending at water. I checked the GPS again. My dot flickered for a second, then stabilized. The app displayed a small message at the top, route completed. Below that, continue straight to remain on path. Continue straight? There was no road ahead, only trees and undergrowth rising sharply from the bank. I looked up from the screen. The river reflected nothing above it except sky. For a moment I felt disoriented, not spatially, but conceptually, as if I were occupying two incompatible positions at once. On the phone, I stood on the far side of a bridge. In reality, I stood at an untouched riverbank. I switched to satellite view. The display loaded slowly. For half a second, the bridge appeared beneath my dot. Clear, detailed, concrete surface, cable shadows cast diagonally. Then the image refreshed. Water. I froze. The refresh wasn't smooth. It felt like a correction, as if the system had briefly revealed something not meant to be shown. I opened the photo gallery and pulled up one of the archived images from 3 years ago. A couple standing mid-span, sunset behind them. I zoomed into the background. The far bank behind the couple looked exactly like where I stood now. Same tree line, same slight curve in the shoreline. I lifted my phone and aligned the photo with reality. The framing matched almost perfectly. Except, in the photo, a massive support tower rose just to my left. Here, there was nothing. I took a step sideways, then another, watching the screen carefully. The blue dot adjusted in small increments, still centered on the imaginary bridge. I walked back toward where the midpoint should have been, toward open air. Each step felt heavier than it should. Not physically heavier, just mentally resistant. At a certain point, about 15 steps from the river's edge, the GPS map zoomed automatically. The bridge icon pulsed faintly. And then, a new message appeared. Signal strength weak. I glanced at the corner of the screen. Full bars. No loss of service. The river remained silent. I looked down at my feet. Gravel. Uneven soil. But when I shifted my weight slightly, the sensation changed. Just slightly. A firmness beneath the top layer. I crouched down and brushed gravel aside with my hand. Dirt, roots, small stones. Nothing unusual, but when I pressed my palm flat against the ground, there was a vibration, faint, rhythmic, almost like distant traffic. My breath caught. I held still, listened, felt. There it was again, a subtle tremor passing through the earth beneath my hand, as if something massive and structured existed just beyond perception. I stood quickly. The vibration stopped, or perhaps I could no longer feel it through my shoes. I opened the live stream placeholder again, the one that would not play. The thumbnail still displayed a nighttime view of the bridge lit by small lanterns, thousands of tiny lights stretching across the dark. I turned slowly in a circle. The riverbank around me was completely unlit, no distant glow, no faint outline of structure, nothing. I whispered almost without meaning to, "Show me." The word felt absurd in the open air, but as soon as I spoke it, the wind shifted. A sudden gust swept across the river, disturbing the smooth surface. Ripples fractured the moonlight, and for a fraction of a second, I saw it. Not fully, not solid, but implied. A distortion across the air spanning the width of the river, like heat shimmer above asphalt. A linear disruption in the night sky. Then it was gone. I blinked rapidly. My heart pounded so hard it blurred my hearing. I stepped forward instinctively, and the GPS tone sounded sharply. Return to route. The screen displayed my dot drifting off the mapped lane. The moment I stepped forward toward the distortion, the ground beneath my foot felt uncertain. Not sinking, not collapsing, just wrong, like stepping where there was nothing coded to support me. I stepped back immediately. Stability returned. The map recalculated slightly. The bridge icon recentered. I understood then. The crossing hadn't been a structure in the conventional sense. It had been alignment. A narrow path defined by coordinates. Followed precisely, it manifested. Deviated from, it dissolved. I turned back toward the river's center. The water now flowed completely undisturbed again. If someone had arrived here randomly, without coordinates, without route guidance, they would find exactly what I saw at first. An empty river, untouched, uncrossed. I imagined hikers stumbling upon this bank during the day, children throwing rocks into the water, fishermen setting up along the shoreline. None of them aware that under certain conditions, a bridge could be driven across directly above them, or that it had once been publicly accessible. I checked the time on my phone. Only 8 minutes had passed since I exited the car. It felt longer, much longer. The GPS display dimmed slightly as if conserving power. Then a notification appeared at the bottom of the screen. Location archived. I frowned. I hadn't saved anything. I tapped the notification. It opened a new tab labeled Recent Crossings, one entry below it. Timestamp, current date. Duration, 12 minutes. Structure, unnamed, no river span crossing, no official label, just structure. I looked up again at the river, empty, calm, indifferent. And in that stillness, a realization settled over me heavier than fear. The bridge had not been demolished. It had not collapsed. It had not even disappeared. It had been moved, not spatially, but categorically, removed from public reality, reclassified, accessible only through a specific sequence of digital alignment. Follow the route, stay centered, do not deviate, arrive precisely. The empty river before me was not proof of absence, it was camouflage. And the fact that I could stand here on solid earth while my device insisted I stood atop a suspended structure told me something even more disturbing. The world had layers, some documented, some rendered, some conditional, and tonight I had arrived at the edge of one that no longer wanted to be found. The bridge still exists somewhere. I didn't leave immediately. Most people would have. They would have documented the empty river, shaken their heads at the GPS anomaly, and driven back to the safety of confirmed geography. But I stayed, because the crossing had been real. The vibration beneath the tires, the expansion joints, the opposing headlights passing through invisible lanes. I had not imagined those details. And if the bridge had manifested once, it could manifest again. I walked back to the car slowly, eyes fixed on the space behind me where the structure should have anchored into the ground. Still nothing. I opened the driver's door but didn't get in. Instead, I placed the phone on the hood and reopened the navigation app. The completed route remained visible. The gray arc stretched cleanly across the river. I zoomed out. The map scaled smoothly until it didn't. At a certain zoom level, the surrounding region remained sharp. but the bridge blurred, not faded, blurred, like a censored section of an image. I zoomed back in, sharp again. I tapped on the bridge icon directly. A small information panel appeared. No name, no construction date, no reviews, just a single line. Structure ID 7A441. Structure ID, not location, not landmark. An identifier, cold, administrative. I tapped for more details, loading. The screen flickered. Then instead of opening information, the map view shifted slightly to the right. My blue dot remained centered, but the river's curve changed subtly. I frowned. I zoomed out again. The surrounding terrain looked almost identical, but not exactly. The tree line along the far bank was denser. The access road behind me curved differently. The coordinates at the top of the screen had shifted by a fraction. Not miles, not kilometers, just enough to matter. Latitude changed in the 4th decimal place. Longitude adjusted slightly west. I checked the physical environment around me. The trees behind me were sparse, yet on the map they appeared thick and tightly clustered. I rotated slowly. The physical riverbank and the mapped riverbank no longer aligned perfectly. My chest tightened. I toggled satellite view. The bridge appeared, fully visible, clear, solid. I held my breath. The structure spanned the river exactly as the old photos showed. Support towers planted firmly on both banks. Cable lines crisp against dark water. Cars frozen mid-crossing. I looked up. Nothing. Looked down at the screen. Bridge. Looked up again. Empty sky. The dissonance was dizzying. Then something changed. On the satellite image, a small moving icon appeared on the bridge. Not a traffic indicator. Not a generic car symbol. A live position marker. Blue, like mine, but not mine. It moved slowly across the span from the opposite direction. I felt my pulse spike. The icon stopped at the center of the bridge, then turned slightly, as if facing me. The timestamp in the corner of the satellite layer read, Live View Enabled. Live View? That wasn't an option I had selected. I tapped the screen to disable it. No response. The blue icon remained at the midpoint. Then, without warning, the satellite image shifted perspective, tilted slightly, as if a camera angle had changed. And for one terrifying, unmistakable second, I saw myself, standing on the riverbank, phone glowing in my hands, framed from above and slightly behind, exactly like the old photos people had taken from the bridge. My knees nearly gave out. I spun around violently. There was no structure above me, no camera, no drone, nothing in the sky. But on the phone, I was clearly visible, a small figure illuminated by moonlight, standing where the support tower should be. The perspective on the satellite image continued to adjust subtly, as if tracking. The blue icon on the bridge moved again, toward the edge, toward where I stood. The image sharpened further. I could see the faint reflection of the moon on the water, the exact positioning of my car. The detail was impossible for a generic satellite layer. This was not archived imagery. This was active observation. I whispered, barely audible, "You're still there." The blue icon paused. Then the information panel reopened automatically. Structure ID 7A441, status active. Access level, restricted crossings logged 2,318. Current session 2. I swallowed hard. 2? That meant the other icon. Someone else was on the bridge, right now, but not physically here, not in the version of the riverbank I occupied. I understood it suddenly. The bridge had not been erased, it had been relocated, not geographically, dimensionally. It existed on a parallel mapped layer, a version of this place slightly offset from mine, accessible only when navigation parameters aligned. The coordinates hadn't just guided me to a location, they had guided me to a threshold. The reason satellite layers flickered wasn't because the bridge was removed. It was because different layers of reality were loading over each other. Public map, restricted map, archive layer, active layer, and I had slipped between them. The blue icon on the bridge reached the edge of the span. The satellite image zoomed automatically. Closer, closer, until the viewpoint aligned with where a person standing on the bridge would look down, directly at me. The screen brightness increased suddenly. The image sharpened to impossible clarity. I could see texture in the gravel at my feet. I could see the reflection of my own face in the phone screen within the image. An infinite regression. Screen within screen. Perspective within perspective. And then the bridge rendered in full. Not just on the phone in front of me. For 3 long seconds, steel cables humming in the wind. Concrete beneath phantom tires. Tower rising into night. It wasn't transparent this time. It was there, solid, imposing, suspended above the river exactly as it had always been. And at its midpoint, a figure, standing, facing my direction, too far to identify, but unmistakably human. Then the structure flickered, not fading, not collapsing, just shifting slightly sideways, like a misaligned projection. The physical world snapped back into emptiness. The phone screen went dark, complete black. No crash message, no battery warning, just absence. My breathing echoed loudly in my ears. The river resumed its quiet flow. No cables, no tower, no figure. I pressed the power button repeatedly. The phone remained unresponsive. After several long seconds, it rebooted. The navigation app opened automatically. The route history was empty. No completed crossings. No structure ID, no log entries. The coordinates I had saved earlier were gone from recent searches, as if I had never entered them. I stepped backward slowly, heart pounding, mind racing. If the bridge still existed, it existed somewhere slightly out of phase, not destroyed, not hidden, but operating on a conditional layer. And the other blue icon, the second session, that meant others had crossed tonight, or were crossing now, just not in the same version of space I currently occupied. I looked one last time at the empty river, calm, undisturbed, completely ordinary, and that was the most unsettling realization of all. The bridge wasn't missing, it was active, functioning, carrying traffic, logging crossings, just not in the public layer of reality anymore. Somewhere very close to here, steel cables were humming in the wind, and someone was standing at the center of that span, looking back. The bridge appears. For a long time, I didn't move. The river continued flowing as if nothing had happened. The trees behind me stood still in the cold night air. No sound of engines, no metallic resonance, no sign that a massive suspension structure had just existed inches away from my perception. But my pulse hadn't slowed, because I knew what I saw. It hadn't been imagination. It hadn't been suggestion or pattern recognition under stress. The bridge had rendered, fully, solidly, and someone had been standing on it, facing me. My phone screen was dark for several seconds after rebooting. When it finally came back to life, it opened directly to the home screen. No apps running, no navigation history visible. Clean, too clean. I opened the GPS app manually. No recent routes, no saved coordinates, no trace of structure ID 7A441. It was as if the device had reset only the parts related to the bridge. I switched to the photo gallery. All archived images of Riverspan Crossing were still there. The sunset shots, the couple's mid-span, the annual light walk thumbnail. I opened one of the oldest photos and zoomed into the center of the bridge. For the first time, I noticed something I hadn't before. At the midpoint, barely visible between two vertical cables, stood a solitary figure, blurry, unfocused, facing the camera. I scrolled through other photos. Different dates, different lighting, different uploaders. In every single image, at the midpoint, there was someone standing alone, always slightly out of focus, always centered, never tagged, never mentioned in captions. I felt the air thin in my lungs. The figure had always been there, we just hadn't noticed. A faint vibration passed through the ground again, stronger this time, not imagined, not subtle. It felt like weight settling onto a large suspended structure. I lifted my head slowly. The river's surface began to ripple, not from wind, but from rhythmic disturbance above it. A low metallic hum emerged from nowhere, deep, resonant, like tension cables under strain. And then, a shadow stretched across the water, not cast from anything visible, just appearing. A dark line dividing the moonlight reflection in half. I didn't blink, I didn't dare. The air above the river shimmered violently, like heat distortion magnified. Lines began to form inside that distortion, straight lines, parallel. Vertical supports sketching themselves into existence. The hum intensified. Steel cables materialized one by one, not fading in, but snapping into place like geometry loading in a simulation. Concrete towers surged upward from the riverbanks. No debris, no construction noise, just instantaneous assembly. Within seconds, the entire bridge stood before me, fully present, solid, impossibly real. Moonlight reflected off steel beams. Suspension cables vibrated subtly in the night wind. The roadway stretched across the span in perfect symmetry. The hum stabilized into a steady resonance. I could see expansion joints on the surface, lane markings, guardrails, every detail identical to the archived photographs. Except this time, there was no flicker, no transparency. It wasn't partial perception, it was here. The river now flowed beneath a tangible structure. I took a slow step forward. The ground beneath my feet shifted from gravel to smooth concrete. The transition was seamless, as if the bridge had always connected here. I looked down. My shoes stood on the edge of the span, a clean, engineered surface extending outward over open water. I inhaled sharply. Wind pushed gently against my jacket, funneled between vertical supports. The sensation was unmistakable. This was no illusion. Then I saw him, at the midpoint of the bridge. The same position from every photo, a solitary figure, standing motionless, facing me, too far to see facial features, but unmistakably human. He wasn't glowing, wasn't distorted, just present, as real as the steel surrounding him. My phone vibrated violently in my hand. A notification appeared without sound. Active crossing detected, users on structure, 2 users. 2. My breath caught. The second user icon had returned to the map interface automatically. The blue dot that represented me rested near the bridge entrance. Another blue dot pulsed at the center, where the figure stood. The interface displayed synchronization, 68%. Synchronization? With what? The air pressure seemed to shift subtly, like a storm building overhead. The cables above me trembled lightly. The hum deepened. The figure at the center took a single step forward. The sound of his foot hitting concrete echoed faintly across the span. Real, measured, physical. My instincts screamed to step back, but my feet remained planted. The phone screen updated. Synchronization, 74%. The bridge felt heavier somehow, more grounded, less like a projection and more like permanent architecture. Lights began illuminating along the railing automatically. Small embedded fixtures lining both sides of the span, warm white, exactly like the annual Lightwalk footage described in the comments. Lantern-like glow stretching into the distance. The entire structure radiated quiet intention. The figure took another step, still facing me. I couldn't see his face, but I could feel his attention. Focused, deliberate. The phone vibrated again. Synchronization, 82% access expanding. Access expanding. The trees on both banks seemed to adjust subtly, as if accommodating the bridge's presence. The surrounding environment wasn't resisting it, it was adapting. I realized something horrifying. The more I acknowledged the bridge, the more stable it became. Perception wasn't observing it, it was sustaining it. The figure stopped walking. He stood approximately 30 meters away now, close enough that I could distinguish posture, shoulders squared, head slightly tilted, studying me. The hum reached a new frequency, not louder, clearer, like a signal locking into phase. The river beneath us responded. Waves no longer moved freely. They split cleanly around invisible support pillars now fully embedded in the water. The bridge wasn't just visible. It was interacting with physics, wind, water, gravity, everything aligning around its presence. My phone screen displayed a final update. Synchronization, 94%, crossing permanent. Upon completion, permanent. Completion of what? The figure lifted his arm slowly, not waving, not signaling, just raising it slightly, palm forward, mirroring something. I realized my own hand was lifting unconsciously, matching the gesture. The moment our movements aligned, the hum stopped abruptly, silence dropped over the span. The air froze. The phone displayed synchronization, 100%. The lights along the railing brightened to full intensity. The bridge felt utterly solid now, not flickering, not conditional, real. The figure lowered his hand, and then he smiled. Not warmly, not threateningly, just knowingly. And in that instant, understanding crashed into me. The bridge didn't appear randomly. It didn't flicker because of system errors. It stabilized through participation, through alignment, through synchronization between observer and structure. The second blue icon, the other user, was not just another traveler. He was part of the system, part of what sustained it. And now so was I. The lights extended beyond the midpoint, illuminating further than I'd ever seen in photos. The span seemed longer now, wider, as if expanding with full activation. Behind the figure, the far end of the bridge no longer connected to the riverbank I'd crossed earlier. It connected to somewhere else. A city skyline faintly visible in the distance. Not the one I came from, not any I recognized. The river beneath us seemed deeper, darker, infinite. The phone screen displayed one final line, crossing accepted. The figure turned slowly and began walking toward the other side, toward the unfamiliar skyline. He didn't look back. The lights along the railing extended forward in sequence, guiding the path, inviting, waiting. And for the first time since this began, the bridge didn't feel like something I had discovered. It felt like something that had been waiting, for me to see it, for me to align with it, for me to cross. Official silence. There was no emergency broadcast, no press conference, no trending hashtag demanding answers. The bridge was never declared missing because officially it had never existed. When the footage was uploaded, it was flagged within minutes, not removed, not censored, just restricted. Limited visibility due to unverified location data. That was the notification. The video still played, but something had changed. The GPS metadata embedded in the file, the coordinates that had guided him to the river, were gone, scrubbed clean, as if the camera had never recorded where it was. He hadn't removed them. He was certain of that. He checked the original file stored offline on a hard drive. The metadata was still there, same coordinates, same timestamp, same strange distortion as 0317 when the structure began to materialize through static. But when he re-uploaded that original file under a different title, the coordinates vanished again, automatically. No warning, no explanation, just absence. He began searching for official records, infrastructure databases, transportation authority archives, urban planning maps from decades prior. He found nothing, not a single permit, not a construction contract, not even a proposal. It was as if the city had never needed a bridge at that location, as if no one had ever crossed that stretch of river before. And yet, the photographs still existed, thousands of them. Wedding shoots, tourist selfies, old film scans uploaded to forgotten blogs, children leaning over a railing that should not exist, a musician playing violin at sunset with steel beams arching overhead. The images were not identical. They spanned years. Weather patterns changed. Clothing styles shifted. The skyline evolved subtly in the background. This was not a single manipulated image. It was a timeline. But official sources remained silent. He emailed the city's historical society. No response. He submitted a formal inquiry to the regional cartography department. Automated reply. He requested satellite imagery archives for the coordinates in question. Request denied due to data irregularities. That phrase again, irregularities. The more he searched, the more the silence felt structured. Not chaotic, not careless, structured. He stopped mentioning the bridge directly in his online posts. Instead, he asked neutral questions. Has anyone noticed gaps in historical maps? Are there known cases of infrastructure being retroactively removed from public records? The responses were cautious, academic, dismissive. Data errors happen. Archival losses are common. Collective memory is unreliable. But occasionally, quietly, someone would message him privately. I remember that bridge. I crossed it once during a festival. I have a photo somewhere. I can't find it now. Then, days later, never mind, must be mistaken. The first time someone retracted their own memory, he assumed embarrassment. The fifth time, it felt different, patterned, as if remembering required permission. He returned to the river, not to film, just to observe. The ground was stable. Grass grew evenly along the banks. No construction debris. No foundation remains. If a structure that size had once stood there, something would remain. Steel leaves marks. Concrete scars the earth. But the soil was undisturbed, pristine. He closed his eyes and tried to imagine it. The hum of cables and wind, footsteps echoing across suspended steel, the subtle vibration beneath his feet. But imagination began to feel unreliable, because there was one fact he could not ignore. He had crossed it, not metaphorically, not in a dream. He remembered the cold of the railing beneath his palm. He remembered looking down at the water between grates under his shoes. He remembered the slight asymmetry in the arch, a design flaw that photographers loved. That detail did not exist in any image online, only in his memory, which meant one of two things. Either he had fabricated a detail so convincing it felt tactile, or the images were incomplete. He opened the final photograph again, the one from the future. His back turned, the bridge fully formed. Behind him, faintly, a second figure stood. At first, he thought it was shadow distortion, but the more he enhanced the image, the clearer it became. The figure stood still, facing the camera, Its posture was wrong, not relaxed, not casual, still observing. And where its face should be, there was only blur, not motion blur, not camera shake, blur shaped precisely like a missing resolution. He froze the frame, zoomed further, and saw something that made his breath stop. The figure was holding something, a device, rectangular, raised slightly, as if recording, as if documenting. He cross-referenced timestamps. The date embedded in the future photograph matched no known calendar irregularity. It was a date that had not happened yet, not a corrupted string, not a glitched sequence, a valid, future day. He checked world events projected for that date. Nothing significant, no astronomical anomaly, no infrastructure project scheduled, no planned demolition, nothing. Which meant whatever was going to happen was not public. He tried once more to search for the bridge by name. Autocorrect changed it instantly. He typed only coordinates, search engine error. He described its structure without using the word bridge. Steel pedestrian span over river. Results, generic stock images, unrelated locations. The internet was not blocking him, it was redirecting him. Subtly, every path bent away, every keyword dissolved. Silence again. Official silence is not loud. It does not threaten. It does not deny. It simply offers nothing. No confirmation, no rejection, just absence. And absence is harder to argue with because you cannot debate nothing. Weeks passed. His channel analytics showed something unusual. View counts fluctuated at exactly 3:17 a.m. A spike, then normalization. Every night, he began staying awake at that hour, watching the dashboard live. At 3:17, the spike happened again, but no new comments appeared, no new likes, no visible interaction, just numbers increasing for exactly 1 minute, then returning to baseline. He refreshed repeatedly, nothing, until one night, a comment appeared, just one. No username, no profile picture. Timestamp 3:10. It read, "Thank you for documenting the transition." He stared at it, refreshed the page. The comment was gone, not deleted, never there. His heart pounded in a slow, controlled rhythm. Not panic, recognition. He understood something then. The bridge had not disappeared. It had shifted, not geographically, structurally. It existed in a version of the city that ran parallel to this one. A layer slightly offset, a map beneath the map, and occasionally, briefly, the layers aligned. Enough for photographs, enough for memory, enough for crossing. But alignment requires observers, witnesses, documentation. He had filmed it, he had archived it, he had questioned it. And in doing so, he had marked himself as aware. Official silence was not negligence. It was protocol, because acknowledging overlap would destabilize certainty, and certainty keeps cities standing. The river looked ordinary by day. By night, under certain angles of light, something faint shimmered across its surface. Not reflection, not wave pattern, structure, barely there. He did not film it again. He did not upload for further theories. He did not search for the coordinates. But sometimes at exactly 3:17 a.m. his phone vibrates. No notification, no message, just vibration. When he unlocks it, the map app is open. Zoomed in, pinned precisely where the bridge should be. And for a fraction of a second, before the screen refreshes, a thin gray line stretches across the water, then disappears. No incident reported, no structure missing, no record altered. Official silence remains intact, but somewhere, between maps, between timestamps, between memory and image, a bridge still waits for the next alignment. And it already knows who will cross it.
Shadows crawl where the light won't go. A silent wind, it starts.